Well, this is Pastors George and Darin here on Grace to Stand, and we've decided to take a little bit of a lighter topic as we've just come out of General Assembly a week ago when we had multiple episodes on that, and we had just come out of a really long section in the Westminster Larger Catechism, which was really applicable to life and how to apply doctrine to life. Well, we just want to kind of take a break here because it is summer, Darin, and it's summertime and it's summer vacation for kids, and the weather is nice. Although I don't know, did it hail by
yesterday?
Did it hail by you?
We did not have hail up here in Greensboro, but we had
gosh.
double rainbows, and we had some rain. But I know a lot of places throughout really the southeast, but I know down in Lexington there was a good bit of hail. I saw the pictures on your Facebook page.
Oh, I'd never seen anything. Wait, but hold on, wait. Double rainbows, is that for Pride Month or what? What's going on in Greensboro?
Yeah, Noahic Covenant Awareness Month. That's what it was. Yeah.
That's nice. Yes.
And let me tell you, I mean, that had to have been your first thought when you saw those rainbows, because I mean, it was some serious stormage going on around here. So
yes. Wow. Yeah, no, the hail, I'm almost 50 and I've never experienced anything like that. The only hail I've ever had was almost like, little tiny things that during a rainstorm, you're like, oh, look, it's hailing, and it melts on your hand. I mean, this was marble size, and I know people talk about golf ball size. It wasn't, we didn't get golf ball size. I think some people did, but like bouncing off the hoods and roofs of our car and pelting the roof. And it was violent. I was outside actually on a class at BTS in the middle of a discussion, and the dog started getting kind of weird. And I was
that's
like,
how you can tell right there when the storm's coming. Right.
And I was just calling him a baby because I'm like, I know. It got a little dark suddenly. And then suddenly, like, all hell broke loose. Like, that's what it felt like. I mean, just like, boom, boom, boom. And it was all over. And I went running inside frantically because it was blowing into the porch. It was coming on an angle, Mm-hmm. And I forgot to turn the video off on my class that I was on with like 8 people.
They thought you were. They thought you were in Baghdad or something.
Yes, it was crazy.
Yeah.
The hail. But it is summer. It's summer, and my kids have been out of school now for almost a month. This is what I can't believe, Darin, that it's almost July, and my kids go to a Christian school, and they finish before Memorial Day, so that was a month ago. And then it also dawns on me, man, my accident was a month ago, and that really feels still very recent, and I'm still dealing with all kinds of stuff from that. Mm-hmm. But summer's here, and summer's always just a fun time of year. I mean, there is a sense that, from January, after the sort of the Christmas stuff, everybody's looking forward to summer. And so what we want to do is just talk about summer memories growing up. So again, like I said, something lighter, and maybe summer plans that we have, but also just the goodness of vacation and resets. And I think I'll read from Mark 6:30-32, just to kind of set it up. The apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a desolate place by themselves. Of course, then they end up having to feed 5,000 or 15,000 people. So much for the rest. But the point is there, right? Rest. So Darin, what about you? Like, do you have like memories of good summer vacation memories as a kid, or what does summer mean to you?
I mean, as a kid, I was just so into baseball. I played baseball during the summer.
What position? What position were you?
I was
shortstop.
No, I was not good enough to be a shortstop. But I had a good arm, and so I was a center fielder.
Oh.
And mainly center and left field is what I played. So we played all stars some, and that was part of our. Much of what I did during the summer was baseball. But, my grandparents lived over, I grew up in Central California in Fresno. My grandparents, both sets of grandparents lived over at the coast. So we would visit them a few times and stay for kind of an extended period of time during the summer. And it was just, just fun, hanging out with friends. And some of it was structured like with the baseball or with the specific vacations. We might go somewhere for vacation for, a long weekend or 4 or 5 days. But, most of it was just hanging out with people, hanging out with friends, that sort of thing. It wasn't it wasn't jam-packed with activity from the moment you wake up to the end of the day. And it wasn't, there was some lazing around couch potatoing, but that was kind of the exception, not the rule. But that was part of it, and it was a good time of refreshment. Yeah. What about you? What was yours like?
Well, so grew up in South Florida, and my parents ran a business most days of the week, and so we spent a lot of time in the business. But when summer would come, my grandparents, my mom's parents, were all up in upstate New York, and we'd go up there for like a month or 3 weeks to a month, and that was all we looked forward to. So Florida kids, we loved the beach. It was always sunny and stuff, but like we just loved to go to what to us was the country, mountains, and we'd go to waterfalls, and there's no waterfalls in Florida. There's
and plus the sun up there in New York in the summertime stays up until 9:30 at night. It's late.
Yes, late nights.
Difference coming from Florida going up north.
It's interesting, that. Yeah, it's.
We went up to Canada a few times during the summer. To Vancouver Island, Victoria.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And, that's even further north, and it would be 10 p.m. before the sun would even go down, and it was just amazing, and it was cool too.
Yes. Well, yeah, nights are a little cooler, and so it's all my mom's and dad's side of the family. So I'd see lots of aunts and uncles and cousins, and it was a lot of fishing and bowling and hiking and doing all. It was great. That's all we looked forward to, and it was a great way to experience another part of the country. Again, Florida is so landlocked. Like it takes 5-6 hours to drive out of the state. It's not like here. You're in Virginia in an hour. You're in South Carolina in an hour. Tennessee's just right over there. It's good. Good memories of being with family and people and just relaxing and recharging. But Darin, it also serves as sort of a reset, and because then you go back to school as a kid and you're in a new grade.
Right.
And really what I've noticed as an adult is it really resets everybody's life, because everybody's life seems to revolve around the school year, whether you have kids in the school year or not. And so like churches tend to like do different things in the summer, but then the programs get back to normal maybe after Labor Day, or sometime in August. And so it serves as a reset, and I really think that's a good thing. Life, sometimes life can feel like we're on a treadmill, and you're just going through the motions, and then it's nice to have a reset. And I know teachers, especially who work in schools, love that reset, and they need it for what they go through, 10 months of the year. And summer seems too short. But what do you think of that concept of needing a reset?
I think that's so important, because it seems like in the Christian life, we...
do you agree with it? Do you agree with it?
I totally agree with it.
I didn't know if you experienced that in your call.
Right. No, you definitely need some sort of a reset, and I think the reason why is you need to remember that we're psychosomatic people, right? We're in other words, we're body and soul, and even when you look at Jesus and his humanity, in his sinless, and fully God and fully man, right? Completely sinless, completely holy in every manifestation, and yet he's also fully human, just like we are. And he is so physically exhausted that he is out on a boat with his disciples in the midst of a storm like you experienced yesterday, but on a boat in the middle of this giant lake. And I mean, one can imagine the sounds and the tumultuousness of being in that boat. And what's he doing? He's fast asleep because he's so wiped out, right? And we would see that he would retreat, be by himself, and just have rest and rejuvenate. And he needed sleep. He needed quiet. He needed a reprieve in his humanity. And if that's the case for Jesus, that's certainly the case for us. So it is a holy thing to need that. I remember earlier, a number of years ago, I had an intern at our church he was just a great, godly young man, pursuing ministry, and he just was he put me to shame with how hard he worked and how serious he took the Lord, and how much he read. And he would tell me, he would stay up till he would work hard on during the day, and he would attend to his family, and after they would all go to sleep, he'd stay up for a couple more hours and read, and then he'd wake up really early in the morning and do reading and all that. And I'm like, dude, you are going to burn yourself out. You are going to burn yourself. You're going to end up in the hospital. I mean, you will eventually. You'll tear yourself up, because we're not meant to go at 100 miles an hour all the time. We've got to sleep in sometimes. We've got to get away, and I think that's important too, right? Is the change of
Yes.
scenery, getting away from your house and the place that you work and the place that you live, and if you can go somewhere for a little bit to have that change of scenery, that's something that can really replenish us. Jesus did it, and he called the disciples to do the same thing.
Right. He often went into the wilderness or a desolate place or into the mountains to pray, to commune with the Father, to get away from the crowds. I love that in that verse I read, "Come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while." And that even the word recreate or recreation, to recreate, is rejuvenating. And I agree with that change of scenery. This year we had trouble figuring out what to do for vacation. There's 5 of us. We have a dog. It's expensive to go places, and we really haven't done put the dog in a kennel type thing. My wife is more open to that than I am, but we just have never really explored it. And my dog already has he's got. I'm his mental health human.
He's getting filet mignon for dinner.
No, we actually don't.
Your wife's feeding him kibbles and bits.
No, I don't know. I feel bad. He's a twice abandoned rescue dog, and we got him after he was at this rescue 2 times, and so I don't like leaving him, but I don't think Susan really cares. But it makes it hard where you could stay and. And I don't know. We've gone up to upstate New York. We have a lot of family that goes to the Catskill Mountains, this town called Tannersville, and it's really kind of fun. And but this year we didn't want to do what we've been doing, and so we don't have a plan this year. I mean, it's so busy as it is. We have visitors coming in town. My parents are coming. My aunt and uncle are coming. Susan's stepmom has already visited. So people like to visit us in the summer, and that kind of that. I mean, it becomes busy. We love the visitors, and we want, and so if you're listening to this and you're planning a visit, you can visit us. But it does make life busy, and so and then the kids are also teenagers, and they have youth camps. They go to RYM. They love it. It's at the end of the summer, and so really this year we don't have a plan. We may get away for 2 or 3 days, but one thing I'm doing, Darin, is, and I've never done this. By the way, can you hear the leaf blower in the background? It's unbelievable. Obvious. I know. I'm figuring out they obviously do this at this time on Tuesday. I gotta. Anyway, so
we're not in a fancy soundproof booth, soundproof room here at all.
no, but it never fails now. You know what? We would be done if we actually did this on time, Darren. We planned. Last week it was you who was late. This week it was me who was late.
Yeah.
Where was I?
Oh, if we do Central Time, if we count it as Central Time, it's
yeah. All right. Note to self. So anyway, but preaching. So preaching is like, I never view preaching as a headache or a problem or as a chore or a labor, but it does guide the rhythm of my week, and I think most weekly preachers would say that. And my own pattern is I'm studying Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm working on the order of worship because we have to print the bulletin Thursday morning. Thursday I'm really like outlining the sermon, and Friday I'm typically writing it. I typically script it and then reduce it back to an outline. It's kind of the way my brain works. Anyway, that kind of puts you, like I said, it guides the rhythm of my week. And so this summer I'm taking 4 weeks off in a row. So I get out of the pulpit. Taylor and Pablo each get, like 8 to 12 preaching opportunities. My two other pastors, yeah. And so like I'm out of the pulpit more than I know of any other senior pastor, to be honest. But so I get out a lot, but just 1 week off out of the pulpit often isn't enough time to catch up on what you need to do. So I'm taking 4 weeks out of the pulpit, not 4 weeks on vacation, but just where I'll be maybe doing some more visits, planning for the year, which is just hard to do. And so using that time as a reset. And so even though I might not be getting away for that amount of time, it's a shift in my schedule to help me just recharge and rethink,
Right. Right. I think that there is a danger in idleness. I think that's something that is probably more of an issue in people's lives than they really can imagine. I mean, how much time of our day do we spend just flipping through our phones? And not that that's completely unvaluable, but it can be very much overdone, right? So we waste a lot of time on idleness, but I also think that we overextend ourselves. I mean, we work hard, and there's so many moving parts and plates to spin in the air, and I really think that it is something that we need to give some thought to about our bodies, our souls, the need for communion with other people. Like you said, just making this a time to be with friends. I mean, the 4th of July is coming up, and I always love the 4th of July because, like in our neighborhood, one of our neighbors, they just have everybody. I mean, it's just like a ginormous cookout with kids everywhere and sparklers and all that. I mean, it's a good time to do that. If you can do that and be with people and in a way, I mean, the sun's up till late, like we were talking about, so the day is a little bit longer. I mean, it's good to be able to have that, to be able to just take that little extra time, slow down a bit, and connect. But really, all of that is a foretaste of what is to come, right? Because what is salvation? What is heaven? It's an eternal Sabbath rest. It's not just sitting there doing nothing and twiddling your fingers. It's not a rest of boredom. It's a rest of life. It's life-giving. And so when we can have a vacation, or we can take some days off, or we can have a period of time where we're just able to not have it scheduled, down to 10-minute increments, which I think the summer tends to afford us the ability to do, perhaps more than other seasons of life, then that's a great benefit to us. Because if we're not getting that rest and we're not being rejuvenated in that sense, we're really not doing we're not able to do the work, the busy things that we actually really need to do as well, because we're doing it with a half-charged battery all the time. I mean, we're burnt out. You are not a machine. We're not machines. We're people. So, because that's the case, we've got to have that rest.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, like you talked about wasting time, I do waste a lot of time, but then I make it up. Like I just have to be accomplishing, getting things done. So what it means is if I'm wasting time during the day, it means I'm up later accomplishing what I should have. But that gets exhausting, And also the multitasking.
And you can also be encroaching on, because you're wasting the time,
family time.
You should be doing something else, like with your family, the things to that effect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Sorry, I derailed.
No, yeah, that's okay. It was a good thought. Just to say that, like, with computers, smartphones, internet, most jobs now could be done from home, and they're trying to figure that out. And it's because like we have all these things to make us more productive, but really all that's done is have to make us work on more things, and so we're actually more distracted than ever before. Whereas, if you had to sit down at a job because you'd have computers and phones and all these resources, it might take you a few hours to do a task, but yet you're focused for a few hours on a task, Now we're jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing. We're shuffling email. I don't know how many emails you get, but like every email I receive, whether it's about worship coming up this week or meetings that we have with the session or something going on with the presbytery or from congregants or visitation I need to do, every one is a new thing I add to the to-do list, and it's so my brain is always shifting from thing to thing to thing to thing. And honestly, like at the end of the day, sometimes I think my brain's overheating. I kind of have like a low-lying humming headache sometimes, and I'm like, I think it's like you're working a computer and you feel it start, like the fan kick on if there's a fan and it's heating up. Like that's our brains.
Exactly. And what it does is it prevents us from being able to really attend to something and focus in on something and give it the attention and the time that it deserves, because you've got 37 things coming at you all at once. And for 99.9% of human history, when people would end the workday would end like it was done. I mean,
that's right.
I think of my dad's just growing up and my dad's work. I mean, he would leave the office, and if his clients needed to get a hold of him, they called the office line and left a message on the answering machine that had a tape in it, like that. They would have to do that. But now you've got the access to email all the time and on your phone, and you can check it and it dings and it alerts you, and it can be 8:30 at night and something's going on. Whereas there was a time where that could really just be dealt with the next day, but there's just this sense of urgency, and everybody has, it's like everything has to be dealt with right now. The expectation from others is that it gets dealt with right now. And I think that we need to, some things need to be dealt with right now, but we need to not let the tyranny of the urgent overwhelm our lives to such a degree that we're in bed trying to, get ready to go to sleep, and we're just putzing around like this, and all of a sudden we get the email from someone who's angry that you preached 2 minutes longer than you should have preached, like that kind of garbage. So
yeah,
that's
right. So use summers. I mean, so summer is a good time. But of course, there is a sense that I remember, especially when I lived in northeastern Pennsylvania and New York, like winters can be longer there. And you just kind of wait all year for summer, especially like me. Like I loved water activities, and so you need things to kind of warm up for that. And so summers can get filled up and busy, and maybe not be so restful. But yeah, it's still rejuvenating because you're just doing things that are fun, you know. I guess to shift gears a little bit, I mean, you have kids and I have kids, and kids obviously like really look forward to summer because even when we homeschooled, you know, we gave the kids the summer mostly off. Susan always kept them still reading and doing some, you know, other things. Actually, I have my kids doing stuff, and Adam's working on SAT stuff, but for the most part, you know, they're not going to school, and they look forward to it. And I really have made an effort to make sure, like generally once a week, I'll take a half a day, if not a day, and do something with them, you know.
Yeah.
And typically, like, I'm taking Mondays off because pastoral ministry kind of, you know, I'm generally working half a day on Saturday, Sunday. Besides worship, there's hours of stuff I'm doing for the church, and so Mondays I try to take off, and even then, only half the time do I actually do it. But I specifically try to plan things with the kids. It's an opportunity for me, and my job affords that. But I know dads that'll take a lot of half days during the summer. You know, you don't have to use a whole day of vacation. They can take a half a day of vacation. They can take their kids hiking. They can take them swimming somewhere. They can. There's all kinds of things. Yesterday I took the kids mountain biking or trail riding at Tanglewood Park and out for breakfast. And then ice cream after the riding, and it was just it's good. The kids need that. They need that kind of, I don't know. Summer memories for me have been important, so I try to make sure my kids have that kind of an experience.
Well, here you are almost, you know, you're in your 40s, and those are great memories that you have, and they bond you even with your family, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
you can look back and see those great memories, and it almost stirs up love and affection for, you know, your parents, your siblings, your extended family, or even friends that you would spend time with. And I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I mean, in a world where we're very detached from people in many respects. And you live a good distance from your family, and I live, you know, 3,000 miles almost from mine, and just having it's in the subconscious, you know. I mean, it's not like you're just consciously thinking about what did you do on summer vacation all the time with your family, but it's somewhere embedded in the subconscious. So as parents, right, and as you know, husbands and wives, doing those fun things together and spending that time where you're not, you know, locked into all these things that you have to do, but just spending those fun times together, it bonds your souls, and it pays dividends, I think, over the decades.
Yeah. Wow, that's good, Darin. I mean, when you were saying that, I was even thinking, you know, for the last 20 years, I could probably go back and with pretty good accuracy remember the summer vacations I took.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And not every single thing I would do in this, because if it was just a weekend trip, I wouldn't. But like, we usually would try to do something significant or bigger, and I probably could get it pretty accurate for the last 20 years. If we didn't do summer vacations, I wouldn't be able to do that for almost anything during the year. In other words, the year is so, you go to work Monday through whatever, you go to church on Sunday, but it does create sort of landmarks in the history of your life to reflect back on, honestly, like good times with people and God's faithfulness and goodness to us. You know, the Bible speaks quite a bit about, well, I was thinking, you know, Ecclesiastes 3, it says, also that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. Like, we should be able to sit back and enjoy life, you know?
Exactly,
and it's a gift.
Exactly, right. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's a good word, and I just pray that our listeners are able to take some of this to heart and think about how the Lord might be granting them this opportunity to care for their own bodies and their own soul, as well as that of their family, as well as that of their church, and encouraging that not to it's a time to remember that we're not just workhorses. That we're not just tools. We're people, and Jesus himself. I mean, you got to go back to in everything. You got to go back to Jesus, and if Jesus himself needed that rest, and Jesus himself took it, and offered that up, and even instructed his disciples to do the same thing. We're no different. We need that, and so we ought to take advantage of the opportunities that the Lord gives us in that way, and not feel guilty that we should be doing something else. We tend to feel very guilty sometimes about things that aren't sin, and not guilty about things that are sin.
Ooh, that's an episode.
So I don't think that there ought to be feelings of guilt that are implanted there, not by the Lord but by the enemy, because you are vegging out for a couple days by the pool or
that's right.
something to that.
No, that's good.
That. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good, Darin. It's also a reminder of how important Sabbath is. The day of worship.
Exactly.
I mean, like God gives us, like He has to force the Israelites to rest, and we laugh at that. But Americans need, particularly Western civilization Americans, we need to be forced to rest, and we don't even rest. I mean, so many on the Sabbath, let alone take an actual vacation. And you think of all the different ways Sabbath is used. Of course, the 1 in 7 pattern that we believe is still upheld in the church, but only the Lord's Day. But also there's all kinds of festivals in Judaism where they're just weekly long parties where people stop what they're doing and recreate. Exactly. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. Christ did that. It's a good word. And so I guess if you are listening to this, take a break this summer. Do something fun. Do something relaxing. Do something you're not used to doing. Reset your brain.